All right, who's ready for a very busy 49ers regular season week one? Headlined, at least at the start, by Kendrick Bourne's visit to the facility. It's coming on Monday, and he also has a visit to Washington, where Adam Peters is the GM, on Tuesday. Now, Kendrick had a foot injury during training camp before he was released by the New England Patriots. I think that if everything checks out okay on the 49ers end, they actually already have a contract framework finalized with Kendrick Bourne. So I think if everything checks out medically for San Francisco, they're not going to want him to leave the building on Monday. They're not going to want him to get on a flight back to the East Coast. And if you think about this logistically, Kendrick played for the Patriots. That's in the Boston area. He's probably coming in from the East Coast for this 49ers visit. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to just turn around and fly straight back. So I think that the odds are in the favor of this working out in the direction of signing with the 49ers. They need a receiver. The Jauan Jennings situation remains in limbo. Bourne to the 49ers would be poetic because it was Jauan Jennings who replaced Kendrick Bourne in 2021. They were both on the team in 2020, but Jennings didn't start playing until Bourne went to New England in 2021. So Jennings replaced Bourne. What if Bourne replaced Jennings? How did Kendrick do in his years with the New England Patriots? Well, 800 receiving yards in 2021 was his high. He tore his ACL in that 2023 season, came back in 2024, and actually, I thought over limited time was a decently productive player. He's going to be 30 years old in 2025, so he's no longer in the mid-20s prime of his career, but he was always a good route runner with the 49ers with good COD, change of direction. And I think that he still has some of that. I think that he's fully now past the ACL tear, and he's a vet, right? He's somebody who knows the system, who has overcome some, I think, earlier concentration drop issues earlier in his career, where he could play a good number 2, number 3 wide receiver for the 49ers as they're trying to raise the floor of that room. Now, I know that we've used the Transamerica Pyramid skyscraper analogy for the construction of this 49ers roster. As this was in the midst of the construction process over the course of this past week, I really emphasize that you've got to wait until the project is topped out to make firm judgments. And the funny thing about the NFL is even once it is topped out, there's still going to have to be maintenance. There's still going to have to be window washing. Every single week, almost every single day is going to see some sort of roster movement in the NFL. And that's where the 49ers are going to be over the course of this season. But I think that you do have the potential of a ceremonial topping out point this week once they do add the final piece they need to add to their wide receiver room ahead of week one against the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe it's Kendrick Bourne. Maybe Jauan Jennings is suddenly going to be back at practice, ready to go for week one. It seems rather unpredictable, right, at this point for the 49ers. But I do think that to be a fully functional, explosive offense, they want to be very comfortable at their top 2 wide receiver positions. You look at the larger depth chart for the 49ers, though, they are very, very strong at tight end and at running back coming out of the backfield. It's not just Christian McCaffrey, it's Brian Robinson Jr. too. So as it applies to how they're going to build this or how they're going to have this constructed for the week one game against Seattle, 12 and 22 and 21 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, going to be very big for the 49ers. You're going to use McCaffrey and Robinson simultaneously. Even if you have somebody like Kendrick Bourne, even if somebody like Jauan Jennings does return, we've reached a point of no return for the 49ers where the biggest part of the offensive game plan is going to revolve around the biggest stars, the guys who have been developing rapport with Brock Purdy over the course of training camp. You can't just plug somebody in right now and expect them to have the vast majority of the game plan. So guys like McCaffrey who have been so good, guys like Kittle, I think he's in the best shape that he's been in over the course of his entire NFL career here entering year 9. Those are the players who are going to be at the center of the game plan against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, remember what I said in our initial preview yesterday of week 1. The Seahawks have a bad linebacking core, and their secondary in general is a whole lot better than their front 7. But the linebackers in particular, that's the position room that in the pass game is vulnerable to be exploited by Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Brian Robinson. Basically, the 49ers who are coming off of play fakes, who are going to be threatening the middle level of that defense. That's what the Shanahan defense is meant to put opposing linebackers in a blender. And regardless of whom is available at receiver for the 49ers, I think that was going to be the game plan against the Seattle Seahawks. So that's something to look forward to on Sunday. I think that's going to be the heavy focus of Brock Purdy and company in this season opener. But, if we just want to look at the construction of the skyscraper, the full look at the 49ers roster as it stands now entering week 1, I think that, funny enough, we talk about the weakness of Seattle linebacker. The 49ers are particularly strong at linebacker. And Luke Gifford is probably going to start at that number 3 spot, but Tatum Bethune should not be discounted for some playing time, especially given the fact that he's going to get some heavy special teams action for the 49ers. Everybody wants to talk about Nick Martin for the 49ers, the rookie, and I get it. At some point this year, maybe it's going to be sooner rather than later because injuries can obviously force the 49ers' hand in this way. Nick Martin is going to have a role for this team, and I think it's going to be a long role into the future just based on his athleticism and based on his physicality, the combination of both of those things, but I don't think that time is yet. I think that Luke Gifford builds a bridge for the 49ers at linebacker 3, which is going to be really important to open up this season against the likes of Kenneth Walker III and a Seattle Seahawks offense that's going to be trying to pound the rock. 49ers are going to be in base a lot in week 1. And you can't be in base with an inexperienced linebacker who's going to get suckered into a lot of the wrong action and also is going to have to be dealing with NFL physicality for the first time. When you're in base with 3 linebackers, you need a veteran presence, especially early in this season, and I think that Gifford's going to be that guy for San Francisco at linebacker. Now, it's going to be a test for D. Winters, too. It's going to be a test for that entire linebacking level, and then if you have to include safeties when you're talking about run defense. I think a lot of the problem for the 49ers when they had that number 29 run defense in 2024 was Jair Brown was missing a lot of tackles coming down from the safety level. I mean, it was tough sledding for the 49ers tackling-wise coming in from corner. Charvarius Ward had a down year. The secondary is going to have to be very, very involved in stopping the Seattle run game, and that's where so many eyes are going to be on both new guys. But Jason Pinnock is the veteran, and Marquise Siegel is going to be the rookie likely starter for the 49ers at safety instead of Jair Brown. Siegel has taken masterful tackle angles over the course of the preseason. The first game he was a little bit off, but games 2 and 3, Marquise Siegel was awesome when it came to swarming to the football and attacking the football from the right geometry. And it's something that he talked about in the locker room the other day. He said that he had to learn by mistakes. And the first game and some of his first practices over the course of this training camp that just passed were the negative examples of what not to do. He had to learn the NFL speed of business. And then he quickly adapted his angle style, his approach from the second level. That's going to be really put to the test by a Seattle team that's going to want to implement a power run game against the 49ers to set up their play action. So not just the linebackers, it's going to be the secondary, which has some new faces for the 49ers, that's going to have to play this run really, really well. But obviously Lenore, Renardo Green on the outside. Then you look at Upton Stout and say, well, he hadn't practiced a whole lot lately, but he's probably going to be that nickel. I do think there's going to be quite a bit of base defense, though, for the 49ers, which would keep Stout off the field and Luke Gifford, the third linebacker, on the field. Gifford is a fast third linebacker. He's going to have to man up against the run for the 49ers. When Stout is out there, in those nickel situations, because that's going to happen too, and you could be sure that Seattle's going to try to run the football even out of some more pass-oriented formations, which is going to put the 49ers in a more DB-heavy alignment. Upton Stout's going to have to use the strength, which the 49ers noticed, obviously, when drafting him. Somebody like Stout, he put up all those bench press reps, right? What was it? Over 20 bench press reps, the most out of any DB at this NFL Combine. I think it was 21 reps of 225 pounds. The guy is built like a ball of muscle. So Upton Stout, we know is strong. We know he's stout for his position. He's only 5'8", but he's going to have to find a way to sneak in there into that box, cause some trouble for Seattle. You want to be a thorn in their side as a smaller nickel back. You're a glorified linebacker because you're playing so near the line of scrimmage. You are there to torpedo run plays. And the more negative plays that you can generate, the more you vibe with what Robert Saleh is going to be trying to call to stop the run, that you're going to prove your worth as that nickel back. K'Waun Williams is the shark, right? We called K'Waun Williams the shark. He was consistently a thorn in opposing offense's side, and I think that Upton Stout is going to be tasked with being that for the 49ers in this game. And hey, if they feel that he's not fully ready for the assignment because he's missed a lot of practice time, that's where Chase Lucas kicked down the door to make this football team. And Lucas was a really good blitzer over the course of the preseason. I'm just very, very intrigued to see what exactly Robert Saleh is going to call from not just a pass blitz, but from a run blitz standpoint, especially against the Clint Kubiak team that's going to try to run the ball a lot on Sunday. But that's a look at your 49ers back seven. The front four for this defense, I don't think that you see an excessive amount of playing time for somebody like Alfred Collins early in the season. I think that the front four, the starters, are going to be Bosa, Elliott, Kalia Davis, and Michael Williams. And I think that if Yetur Gross-Matos is ready to go, then he works into that rotation for the 49ers at one of the end spots. Obviously, Bryce Huff plays in those passing situations, but it's more likely that Jordan Jefferson and C.J. West are part of the 8-man rotation or the 4-man rotation at defensive tackle than an Alfred Collins early in this season. So it's going to be more about experience, or whatever experience the 49ers have early on. So a Jordan Elliott, a Kalia Davis against that Seahawks front, which wasn't good last year. I mean, you look at somebody like a Gray Zabel. He came in as a rookie this season to try to help a Seahawks interior offensive line that was terrible. So Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, the first-round pick, is going to be playing left guard. That's going to be the matchup against the 49ers 3 technique, right? So probably going to see Kalia Davis against a Gray Zabel. You might see a Jordan Jefferson against the Gray Zabel. The 49ers, one tech, the C.J. West, Jordan Elliott, they're probably going to be playing more of that staunch fire hydrant position for the 49ers, and you'll see them working maybe even against the center for the Seahawks, maybe a little bit against right guard. But that battle is going to be extremely intriguing to me because Seattle wasn't good there last year. The 49ers obviously struggled big time against the run. They've renovated their defensive line. Who has the early season upper hand? Then you move to the offensive side of the ball. This is where I think the 49ers have their biggest advantage. We started this roster breakdown in the context of Seattle talking about the 49ers receivers. And, I get that Seattle is going to have the secondary advantage with Reek Woolen and Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love against the 49ers receivers, probably no matter what San Francisco is able to do this week, even if Jauan Jennings comes back. But it's the linebacker level that would really concern me if I were the Seattle Seahawks because of Kittle and McCaffrey. Then it's, can Seattle stop the run in this game? What kind of run blitzes are going to challenge the 49ers protections up front? McCaffrey and Robinson say that they want to be the best duo in the game. They think they are the best duo in the game. They can go out and prove this right away. I do wonder if Dominic Pooney is going to play for the 49ers up front. That's something that's been trending in the right direction for San Francisco. They're actually really excited about the prospects of Dominic Pooney actually playing. If he does play, Ben Barch is back. Jake Brendel has not been affected by the knee tendonitis that afflicted him last training camp. the 49ers offensive line should be better, I think, than last year. The front line of it should be better. Trent Williams actually has had a training camp. Colton McKivitz has been running the hills of San Francisco. He's taken a big step up in his game. Pooney should be a year two jump after he hit a wall at the end of his rookie year. Brendel's healthier, and Aaron Banks at left guard didn't have a great year for the 49ers in 2024. The short sample size of Ben Barch was actually better on the scoring chart last year. The key for Barch is going to be to stay healthy. But, I talk so much about the 49ers not having great first down run efficiency last year. There was no McCaffrey. There was no Brian Robinson Jr. That's something that if they can figure out against Seattle, either through, but it's through both the run blocking and the play calling and the running back execution, if they can get back to being a top 7, top 5 first down run offense like they were in 2022 and 2023, that's what opens up the true play action attack, and that's going to McCaffrey, that's going to George Kittle up the seam. That's where the 49ers can win this game with Brock Purdy's arm, even if they don't necessarily have the firepower that they typically do at receivers. So receivers are going to be the story to begin this week with Kendrick Bourne visiting the facility. I fully get it. We're going to be paying close attention to that and Jauan Jennings. But as this week progresses, no matter whom the 49ers sign or who returns at the receiver room, more focus should be going on the 12, the 22, the 21 personnel for the 49ers, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, however way they scramble it, because that's how this Seattle defense is built to be attacked. They're really good in the secondary, but I think they're a little bit sketchy elsewhere. But as a whole, I mean, this is all this tactical warfare, right? And you look at the full construction of the unit that the 49ers are going to be going to battle with, it's essentially complete. It might be a piece or two away here from being where they want it to be, but it's going to be a work in progress over the course of the whole year. I think that they're happy with their 70-man entering the Pacific Northwest. They're going to have to find ways to work around some of the short-term shortcomings, but in the large picture, 49ers seem to be in a good, ready, healing spot, right? That's important too. You see a whole lot less pink on the depth chart in the injury shades than we saw before. Somebody like Jordan James off of the injury report. Watkins and Jauan Jennings are still on it. Pooney's still on it. Might come off. Same thing with Yetur Gross-Matos. Not a whole lot of injuries anymore for the 49ers listed on this sheet, which is a really, really good trend for them. All right, that's your week 1 primer. We're ready for the season. 49ers Seahawks coming up. So long from, this is actually the Hamptons, but we'll be back on the West Coast very soon.